I read issue 7 of War Machine, guest starring Hawkeye. Armour and Archer slam the lid on the Cold War. About time someone did something about that. We have a team-up issue of War Machine, his ongoing series. 2 Avengers guys, side by side. We have an all-new villain called Cold Warrior. He is a Soviet cyborg. He's not 15 years old, but he is kind of raging. Our creative team is Len Kaminski with a co-writer. Len Kaminski was writing Iron Man at the time too. He had introduced the War Machine identity earlier on. I don't know and cannot find anything out about our co-writer, so let's talk about our art for the issue. You might not know from the credited name, but this is Hardman, later of Angels of Aslan. That is what I think of first when I see his name. But he did many Jeff Parkman books, like Red Hulk. He did some of that. This was back when he used a different pen name. He also wrote and drew a Hulk story, a continuity insert, Crossroads era. Green Lantern's Earth None. I hadn't seen his name in a while, either of them, but he's just brought out a Batman era Mr. Questions comic. Would have loved to see him have a run on a good Captain America run. We start with my most beloved of tropes, starting in media res. We have War Machine and Hawkeye already in battle with Cold Warrior. How did I ever end up here? Well, now we are going to find out. We are also teaming up with Hawkeye, and this was during a time when Hawkeye wasn't with the Avengers. He had gone off on his own after his wife died. And his appearance in this and his costume comes from the Hawkeye miniseries by Chuck Dickens. A short-lived redesign that is maybe better known for being what he wore in that Iron Man cartoon. He wears it in that one good issue of Force Works, the Christmas one, issue 8, is it? He will be redesigned by Mike Diddy Dardo Jerk by the time that he returns to regularly appearing in books. I do appreciate the dynamic between the 2 characters. It feels like we are missing an issue somewhere, but they are buddies. They share a common dislike for Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. He screwed them both over. He betrayed both their friendships. I have always liked the whole brothers in arms bit. It is a nice progression of character dynamics. It shows Hawkeye growing, and it allows someone seen as a classic Silver Age character like Hawkeye to have a meaningful bond with War Machine, and not in this issue, us agents. Say what you want about the comics themselves, but the idea of Hawkeye being allowed to mature and grow beyond his typical group of friends and supporting characters, that was legitimate evolution. And him being friends with War Machine speaks to some backstory. Most of it is us doing legwork though. Him and War Machine don't have that much backstory. What I point to as the critical thing is that, unbeknownst to Hawkeye until after the fact, War Machine was one of the founding members of Hawkeye's West Coast Avengers. I think that is doing a lot of unseen bonding between the two. Hawkeye was also there when War Machine debuted a year or two earlier in Iron Man. And then War Machine would show up to join or rejoin the West Coast Avengers. Unlike Iron Man, War Machine was there when Hawkeye's wife died. And now the pair have individually cut ties with Iron Man, which further links them and gives them reason to interact or see eye to eye. We have this bit where War Machine, he talks about having killed someone in combat, which references past issues of this series. War Machine then asks Hawkeye if he has ever done so, and Hawkeye replies, yes, an accident, but that did not make me like it any better. An unfootnoted reference, subtle reference even, to when Hawkeye killed Eggman in Avengers 229. That is a good use of continuity. A lot of us get it, and others don't know what he is referencing explicitly, but the line of dialogue still means something, even if you don't know it is when he was responsible for Eggman's death. We have a flashback within a flashback. Who ever said 90s comics were bad? War Machine. One of the setups for this series is that War Machine is now working alongside a peacekeeping organisation. I haven't read this series. Most of what I know comes from this issue filling me in. Any irony with the idea of a character called War Machine being a force for peace is the book's own sense of humour. Another flashback within a flashback. Hawkeye reveals his secret vice. Never seen on panel before, and never referred to again after this. It's that much of a secret. He frequents cop bars in his spare time. He likes to go to cop bars and listen to all the policemen tell their tales, be it good cops or bad cops. I bet you never knew that about Hawkeye, unless you had read this issue before, but even if you had, there's a good chance you forgot that bit. Hawkeye tells War Machine about this one time when a good cop had to fire on a suspect, and how internal affairs cleared him, but the guilt was too much for the cop, and he wound up killing himself. This, surprisingly, adds a tiny bit more to that Eggman story. When Hawkeye demanded the Avengers review his actions and judge if him killing Eggman was justified or necessary, we now have this little bit of extra information about this one cop, and that can add some context to why Hawkeye was so motivated and insistent upon a tribunal and shit. Our plot is that Hawkeye is hunting down an engineer who has went missing. The engineer is a shared ally to the two heroes. He had designed sky bicycles and arrows for Hawkeye, and presumably did some touch-ups on the War Machine armour at some point. We had seen him in the Hawkeye miniseries before this. He has been taken prisoner by some Soviet loyalists, some holdouts, who were forcing him to revive Cold Warrior. Cold Warrior, he has been in deep freeze for years and is unaware of the collapse of the Soviet Union. Any pun intended with deep freeze is again the comic sense of humour, not me. Here is Arctic Adventure Hawkeye, coming to a toy store near you. Cold Warrior is awakened and is only interested in fighting for the goals of the Soviet Union. So here is our fight where we know the outcome is Cold Warrior will have them on the ropes. Cold Warrior's powers are very generic. They are almost not even explained. All we get is the information that he draws kinetic energy from the cold air around him. There has been cold-based Iron Man enemies before. It's not a new thing. Captain Cold, for example, he is a major one. There will be new ones after this too. And it's not just that extreme either. Heat has played a big part in other Iron Man villains. Thermodynamics seems to be a common idea to function as a villain power for an armoured hero to face. They make for some truly forgettable villains though. Ice or fire based bad guys. Not all of them can be Captain Cold or Fire Plan. We are caught up now, and the story doesn't do its job of letting a reader know that. You are left to recognise it yourself. The defeat of Cold Warrior, after we went through this long rigmarole of telling us how we got here, it is insufficient to the build-up. I was expecting something bigger, but he is buried in snow and is told by War Machine about how the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet Union were disbanded. Cold Warrior doesn't seem to be bothered about any of this information, and he threatens, "We will bury you," which refers to a petty grudge against War Machine and Hawkeye, but also is his sentiment towards America as a whole. Cold Warrior never appears again. He doesn't bury anyone. He does not have another appearance. This is the only comic he has ever been in. Not had a handy book profile either. There are good odds he is not even mentioned in War Machine's handy book profile. The only thing buried here is Cold Warrior. There is another villain called Cold Warrior, a 1950s villain who battled the 1950s Avengers, aka the Angels of Aslan. It's like we have come full circle. This is a very disposable issue. I don't think you're going to be remembering any details from it for long after you have read it, but it does meet the criteria of being an average team-up story between War Machine and Hawkeye. Cold Warrior lacks any depth, and I would say any presence too. There was, throughout, the feeling and reminder that this could be a lot better, but at the same time I don't think it was bad. This would pass for a random less than inspired issue of Spider-Man Team Up, and that is how I will judge it. So it gets a 7 thumbs up.